what they call a group of crows. I ain't never been a part of one, that is, not since I lost her.
Hello.
How you doing?
Hi, everybody. How's everybody doing?
Good.
All right. Nice to meet you all. So, let's get into it. I'm excited to talk to you about your film Croaked. I thought it was really well done and really sharp writing, very clever jokes and puns and stuff like that. And the other thing that stood out to me, I'll say, is that I thought for such a short film, it had a pretty complete story and arc and resolution. So we'll talk more about that later. But if you could all just introduce yourselves and tell me how you got into filmmaking. Rohan can start if you want.
I'm Rohan. I live in Pooler now, but I got introduced to filmmaking when I was pretty young, just watching animated movies and stuff off YouTube and things like that. And soon after that, I knew I wanted to go into animation. And then we all met, of course, while at college. And then our story kind of took about a year to develop, and from script to finish. I don't know who else wants to go.
Davey or John, either one.
Sure. I'm Davey. I'm a 3D animator and also did the concept for the film. I got into filmmaking because I had mainly an art background, and then I started watching, especially with kind of animation films taking a more artsy, kind of painterly look recently. Made me realize that I could kind of combine storytelling with art, and went to school for it, where obviously I met everybody on this crew and had a blast making our first film.
So this was a student project?
Yes.
It was our
Wow.
senior film.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Real quick, is a couple of the films we selected are actually student films, and it's surprising me how good student films are becoming nowadays, because in the past, it's when you're first starting, sometimes they don't come out that good, but a lot of great student films this time. But anyway, Davey, were you saying something on?
No, that's basically all. It was an excellent production. It was great to meet everyone.
Awesome. How about you, John?
So I'm John. I produced the film. I was also the film's character TD, so kind of leading all of the technical aspects of all of our characters. I got into film pretty early on. I mean, similar story to I think 95% of people that want to work in this industry. Just kind of watching movies growing up, especially animated ones. I did some TV broadcasting work in my high school, and I kind of fell into the role of the graphic designer. I did a lot of 2D graphics, and that's kind of when I started to learn the difference between the boundaries of what's possible in film versus the boundaries of what we can push in animation. Fell in love with it, so I went to school for it, met these lovely people, and 4 years later, we have a film that's in a festival run. So it's been great ever since. Ever since I heard about Rohan's pitch of Detective Crow and this fun, kind of insane idea, I was super on board with this since the jump. So it's been great.
That's awesome. Yeah, well, let's talk a little bit about what inspired you, Rohan, to write this, and maybe what inspired Davey and John to get involved with it.
Yeah, for me, it was kind of two things. Both just my love for Looney Tunes and cartoons of that nature, where they're very silly and expressive and over the top. And then also just noir films. And I think when I was writing it is when I started watching Twin Peaks, and that was just a huge influence on my creative output, I guess. So I don't think that really shows in the final thing, but I don't know, it's somewhere there in spirit, I suppose. But just growing up in high school and everything, watching black and white noir films like Double Indemnity and stuff like that were huge inspiration for me. And I don't know, do you guys want to take it up for how y'all, I guess, were interested in joining?
Sure. I know, for me, watching Rohan's pitch was super phenomenal because it was full of ton of creativity. Obviously, joining the black and white noir with kind of a super bright colored comedy with Silly Goose. Just felt super creative and original. And also in the original pitch, he was talking a lot about like blending like textiles, textures, and stuff like that, and like a lot of graffiti and scribbles, and kind of just try to pour as much like handmade elements into the film as you can. And it just felt very, I don't know, like there was a lot of ideas going on at once, which means that anyone can kind of put their creative foot forward and add as much of themselves to the film as possible. And then when we actually got onto production, that's kind of how a lot of the creativity went, is we just kept trying to push really cool visual looks, and it was such a witty story, and
Yeah, very, very witty. Like a lot of the, the bird related jokes and puns are like really good. What do you think, John?
So for me, it was all rooted in, well, not all rooted in, but I really fell in love with just the characters and especially the contrast between jaded, slightly alcoholic, maybe Crow, and then like Silly Goose. It's kind of like looking at like a SpongeBob versus a Squidward, and that dynamic of what happens when these two characters kind of clash was really interesting to me. And then as well as just kind of the world, like making a city that's all themed around kind of like birds run it, and we're not really so sure like how it all works, but it was just kind of fun to flesh that out on top of these character dynamics between obviously like this very fatherly but reclusive kind of Crow, and then the obscenity that comes with a goose that's trying to murder people.
Yeah. Feels like a lot was packed into these 3 minutes, or what is it? Is it 3 or 4 minutes, right?
Yeah, like 3.5, I think.
Yeah. Like it feels like so much is packed into it, like rewards like rewatching as well. Like a lot of jokes that you could maybe miss if you're not, paying attention closely enough. And like I said, I really admired that there was kind of like a full story in there. It wasn't like just like proof of concept. It had like a full story, even though it was so short, which is, I think, difficult probably to do. Rohan, is it something that you were thinking about consciously? Like, hey, I want to make a full story. I don't want this to be a proof of concept or just like a one short scene.
Yeah, that was definitely so we had, at least the year that our school had more strict guidelines about the length. This year they've loosened it a bit, but so we couldn't go past 3 minutes, 3 minutes or so, and that was definitely like in the back of my mind, and also like all of our minds while we were writing the script, of just like how to pack as much into it where it works as a standalone story. But I don't know, I think there's a lot in the world, and if we ever wanted to like revisit it or do something more with it, I feel like there's space for that. But we did want it to like work as a standalone like 3 minute short film.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see a world where this, like I said, wasn't a complete story and it felt like incomplete and just a proof of concept. But it makes it feel so much more like satisfying that it did have that kind of full story. So let's talk about like the process. I'm like very curious about like how this was done. I really do like animation, but I don't know. I don't have experience with it directly, so I don't know exactly like what goes into it. But the other thing I'll just say is that a lot of the animations, it felt kind of like John was kind of touched on this a little bit, like animation versus live action stuff. This felt like a lot of the camera angles were, it felt like there was a camera person, even though it's animation. So very creative angles as well. So what was that process like? Like the storyboards and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is fairly similar to live action to some extent, and then it sort of pivots near the end. But as far as pre-production, it goes the same process of script to storyboards, then to like layout, camera layout, and everything. And that's probably where it deviates the most, just because we have to lock in a lot of our camera movement fairly soon. And I mean, we can change it a bit, but for the most part, we're animating to the camera, which means if you move the camera around, then you kind of see the seams and whatnot. Um, but yeah, I mean, Davey might have more to add here.
Yeah, we definitely worked on cameras a lot during pre-production. There was a lot of different inspiration. Like we looked at, I think I'm gonna get the name wrong, but it's like The Third Man, which is an old black and white film that did a lot of Dutch angles for the first time, especially because we were trying to replicate that detective noir feel. I know there's like especially one shot in the film where the camera like shakes into a certain angle, and we spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to make that work. There was like a shot in Stranger Things where they like hit a table and it bonks the camera, and we like studied that a lot. And then especially like once you get into like the chase scenes, we had to work to make sure you never got like mentally lost, and that every shot led into the next one and just kind of guided your eyes where the characters were running. And yeah, there was a lot of work probably put into the cameras, maybe equal to like planning out the characters as well. But I think it was worth it.
So, just another question is like, since Rohan, you're the director, like, how much input did you have on like character models versus what maybe John and Davey had, and like how did that work?
Yeah, so all the characters were designed by Davy, so she was our concept art lead. And then John was, of course, rigging them, and then we had someone else, Faith, was modeling them. So I was the director, but I also wanted to make sure that everyone had a say, an equal say in the project. But I guess I would have like final say, I suppose, for I guess the overall direction of how things should look and feel, and yeah, just to make sure the ship was on course. But
Yeah.
I
What do
would.
you think, John? Or sorry, go.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, Rohan has a really unique art style. And he would draw all the characters, even if we'd already done a design, he would draw all the characters in that art style. And I felt like, at least for me, and I'm sure for the other concept art people, it kept kind of guiding the vision of the film in a way that was really helpful. Because I know for myself, sometimes you can kind of get stuck in your own style. But it kept pushing us to kind of hit the like goofy, wacky, creative bar that he was setting for us. Yeah, I felt it was a very strong creative vision.
What do you think, John, about the process?
Yeah, so a lot of the best ideas we had were crazy. So the fact that it was so like open that anyone could say what they were feeling or thinking, like this could be a good idea. Like I think even like something I had was like, what if the pigeon's eyes were kind of like hey hey from Moana? Like, could we figure out how to do that? And then how do we like animate all that? Or like other ideas, like what if like tall building was not like just came so overblown, like how tall it was, but we made it work.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of like crazy ideas and like not saying no, but like kind of sticking to yes and treating it a little bit like improv, and then kind of collaborating with the tech team to figure out what is feasible and like how can we push to make it work. That kind of all came together to produce, I mean, what you saw.
yeah, I think like oh sorry, go ahead. I was gonna say, bouncing off what you were saying, I feel like that also kind of the improv idea and the camera work from before kind of tie together in ways like tall building, for example. I think at first it like really like I think the scale of it was pretty late in the game that we added that, if I remember correctly, and by then a lot of the city was developed. So like if you watch closely, like the location of the building kind of does change. But we were definitely cheating to the camera there. And I think that like ties back into the improv idea of just like not saying no to an idea, but if we do need to scale back, like how can we still like get the same effect while making it achievable?
What were you saying, Davey?
All I was going to add was with the whole yes and idea, it was really fun as an animation lead that was the energy, because I worked a lot with John to make anytime I or another animator had an animation idea that maybe wasn't possible with the technology we were given or the rigs we were given, John would spend like every waking moment trying to make it possible and then come back to us every single meeting and have updates on the rig that we could try out. And I know like from firsthand experience seeing how shots started versus how they ended at the end of production, I was able to animate, I think not the first shot that appears in the film, but the first shot that we like presented to our professors and supervisors and everything to get our film approved. And the way it looked at the beginning of the year versus I went back at the end with all of his rig updates that he'd made just accumulatively over time, and changed the animation. Looking at the difference in quality is crazy. He just put so much work into fulfilling any idea anyone had. Yeah, it was a great time to work with.
Yeah, it seemed like you were kind of thinking outside the box with this as well, and like pushing the envelope. And I think that is cool to have the, you know, freedom when you're collaborating to think of something that is crazy or over the top, and have people that are receptive to it instead of just saying, "Oh, that's ridiculous" or something like that. The one thing that stood out too, just remembered, is like that one character was like a frog or something. It seemed like it had a completely different like style, and it's just weird how it, like, I don't know how that works, like, you know what I mean, like it looks like it's from something different, but somehow it still fits in the world somehow. I don't know what was going through your mind, whoever thought of that.
Oh, so he's like, I have him with me. He's real.
That's awesome.
It's like it's a clay model that I had went over in Procreate or Photoshop or whatever, and made it look a little bit more like disgusting and realistic. And then it's kind of photo bashed into one of our rendered backgrounds. But we were looking at like, I don't know if you remember in like SpongeBob and maybe Ren and Stimpy, they had those gross up, really detailed,
Yeah.
yeah, just like for one frame. But that was the inspiration there.
Yeah, it's a good example, because that feels obviously like a completely different style, but it fits somehow into the world. All right. Well, I wanted to ask about kind of like what your like goal was with this. What do you want people to take away from it, feel or think about this, or yeah, what do you think?
It's a good question.
I mean, I think at the end of the day, the biggest question we were asking ourselves while writing it and even while animating, even like me doing the rigs, like how we can get the characters to look, was at first we were just focused on like how funny can we make this? Like let's try to make each other laugh, and then by doing that, we'll make other people laugh. But as we kept developing the story and kind of figuring out where it was going, we kind of like fell on this whole like found family theme. And I think if I were saying it succinctly, like what I want people to take from it is I want them to laugh, but I want them to also be like touched a little bit, but mostly just to have a good time with the film. And I think that kind of we saw it for the first time on the big theater with a whole crowd of people watching it, and that was a very surreal moment, watching everybody clap when there was like when it made sense to, laugh when it made sense to, and even go like aw when they were supposed to. So that was really
Yes,
fulfilling.
cute at the end. Yeah.
Very cool.
What about Davey or Rohan?
I feel like I would just agree with everything John just said. Our whole mission the whole time kind of just felt like how entertaining can we make it? But also dealing with like heavy subject matter, like he's an alcoholic that lost his wife and is going after kidnapped children, and towing that line. But yeah, I'd agree. I'd hope that people would watch it and laugh and have a good time, but also at the end feel satisfied and touched that the pigeons were okay.
Yeah, that's cool. And I think it kind of goes back also to what I was saying, like that you can watch it several times, and get, because it's so fast paced that I think you can miss some stuff, but not in a bad way. In like a wow, I want to like try to absorb that again, or and it's just packs so much into it in a cool way. Mm, What would you say that you all kind of learned from this experience? That maybe you'll take with you to future projects. What do you think? Maybe due to challenges you had to overcome, or anything like that you learned from this.
I guess like one challenge would I guess tying back to the improv thing, I think like a lot of the issues that we had to, or the stuff that we had to cut out, was mainly just due to time constraints. So right now a few of us are working on another short film where we don't have any of the time constraints from college, and that's been like both a blessing and a curse, because we don't, I think just sticking to a schedule, meeting everything, that's probably like the biggest takeaway I had from it. and just like finding out your team dynamics early on and like playing to each person's strengths and weaknesses. Just so, yeah, I don't know. But that's, I think the knowledge from this has really helped me in our next film that we're working on. Just like understanding what people bring to the table, and yeah, just, I don't know.
Yeah. How much time did you have to make this?
A little over a year, so about like a year and a half, I guess. I think I pitched it a few months before, and then over the summer and a little bit before is when our team got together and just did like initial concepts and planning. And then after that, about a year.
Well, every time I think of animation now and like the process of making it, I think there's a scene from Parks and Recreation. I don't know if you saw this. I forget the
Stop
guy's
motion
name.
clip.
Yeah, that's hilarious. He like spends like hours on it, and then it's just like 1 second of footage or whatever.
Yeah, I kept thinking about that because like all three of, I mean, pretty much our whole team was like always awake like 24/7, and then like you watch it and it's like 3.5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
Puts things into
No, I lost
perspective.
so much sleep just to make 3 minutes long.
So, what do you think, Davey and John, about what you learned from this?
I think
I
at least
think. Oh, go ahead. You first.
okay. I was just gonna say for myself, I think like 2 things. Mainly the importance of collaboration. I feel like a lot of times as artists and as filmmakers, you kind of just want to focus on your own craft and make your own stuff as good as it can be, and you forget about the value of other people's ideas and working with other people. And on a film, you can't really do that. You have to rely on the people around you. And I think getting to be part of a film experience where I was there for both pre-production and post-production, got to see everything fall together. And anytime I was working on something, it was never isolated. It was going to affect every single other person's work, and affect the film at large and everything like that. I really gained a lot of learning to rely on the people around me, ask them for their ideas, make their ideas happen, just not just my own. And I saw, I guess the work I was producing got better for it. There was shots where I would get really stuck. Like, for instance, there's a shot where the goose has just shot the frog outside of the office, and Crowford, the detective, like sees the goose running away and runs after her. And at first, when I animated it, he was just running after the goose, and it was okay, it was fine. But John in the dailies was like, what if he slipped? And what if he slipped in frog goo? And it was like really kind of disturbing but fun. And now when I watch that shot, I'm like, so much more entertaining than it ever was before. And no, again, I feel like, especially if you can create a culture of encouraging the yes and idea, encouraging everyone's ideas, even if they're really stupid or small, it makes everything better.
Yeah, it's great. What about you, John?
So I definitely learned a lot about, I mean, echoing what Rohan and Davey said, I agree with everything they said. But another thing is, like, as producer, I had to do, well, me and Rohan led dailies, but I was kind of like the voice behind it. So I learned a lot about like what's the right verbiage for like keeping people engaged and excited about the project, as well as figuring out when to celebrate and how to celebrate really great like wins for the team. Like whenever there was a really great animated shot in dailies or a texture that looked great or a background that was really well done, figuring out where to celebrate that, using that to kind of inspire the rest of the team and even our sister film, because it's our class was like split into 2. So half was Croaked, half was another film. We're all very good friends for the most part. And yeah, just kind of talking through that. So a lot of leadership stuff, but as well as kind of like learning about like bouncing ideas off of each other. And even not everyone knows how to rig, not everyone knows how to animate, but we all have eyes. So we can kind of like see the other stuff and kind of figure out when to lead advice for different things, or kind of figuring out like what skills are transferable to different, I guess, like parts of production, and kind of figuring out the best route forward to make the best possible product. So I'd say that that's kind of some of my biggest takeaways, apart from the more like technical aspects of just kind of learning from the different problems of each kind of character I had to figure out. But
Yeah.
definitely a lot moving forward for sure.
Yeah, well, just something that occurred to me. I'm curious to hear your or anyone's thoughts on this. Like, I think when it comes to these types of projects, like balance is important. Like Davey said, you don't want to just be focused on your own, like your own craft. You want to collaborate. But I've noticed, like also making films is like the other extreme isn't great either. If there's too many cooks in the kitchen type thing, and then it can start to confuse you, like too many opinions. So how do you? And it's kind of a tough question, off just off the top of your head, but like, what would you say? Like any of you say about kind of balancing that?
That's a good question. I think so since we were such a small team of only 10 core people plus some sound designers who were not like part of the classroom, everyone was kind of like involved with each part of the pipeline. So like even though John and I were not concept leads, we both did a little bit of concept art. Like we all animated. I think the only part that was exclusive to one person was rigging, if I'm not mistaken. But we were all like involved throughout concepts to compositing at the very end and editing. So that I think avoiding like too many people's clashing opinions. One thing that was helpful is that we had leads in certain areas. So like tech lead, concept lead, animation lead, and whatnot. And I think that helped having like directors of each section almost. So while I did have final say on the overall project, each person would have like equal say as me, and it would prevent too many like clashing opinions. Though I think for the most part, another thing that we did to prevent that is we would always share our work in front of the class, like every single class day, and our professor would also give us like a ton of feedback to help us see what was working and what was not as like a almost outside opinion. So that also really helped.
Awesome. Yeah, that makes sense. That structure seems like it helps in that situation. The last thing I'll ask is actually about like upcoming projects. You kind of touched on it a little bit. What are you all working on next?
Yeah, right now we are all working on another short film called Wayfarer. It's directed by Krista Woods. She was on Croaked as well. And yeah, it's her project. She is writing and directing it right now. We're all of us are involved with it, as well as some of our sister films. So it's fun. It's like part two, but with less Croaked part two, but with less stress.
Yeah.
But it's a total different story and vibes and everything.
That's awesome. Look forward to checking that out. So you're all working on the same project?
Yes, fully remote this time.
Really? But is it? Yeah. It's not a student film in this case?
Not
not anymore.
Yeah.
You've all graduated?
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
All right.
Time to work on it this time.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I look forward to checking that out. But all right. Well, we're pretty much done, but it was awesome talking to you guys and catching up. I look forward to checking that, next project out. And yeah, thanks for joining and, submitting to the festival. And I look forward to, showing it to people and seeing what they say and getting their reception. And I, it's in the Hollywood screening. I haven't said this to anyone, but I want to put that one first because I think it's a good film to kind of kick it off with the high energy and stuff. So I look forward to that. But it was great talking to you all, and have a great rest of your night.
Thank you so much.
Dave. Thank you so much.
Great to meet you.
No problem. You too. All right. See you, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.